Recording is recording. Sorry, just had to check. So, hearing loss. Hearing loss is the next one, and I've got some staggering facts about hearing loss. So, nearly half of all the people with mild hearing loss will develop some form of dementia later in life. Wow. And this risk is tripled if you have moderate hearing loss, and is multiplied by 5 times if you have severe hearing loss. What? Well, they've linked hearing loss with a far faster shrinking of the brain cells than people without hearing loss. So it's to do with the temporal lobe, where we process hearing is processed, and also memories. Well, I've got frontotemporal, so somewhere there is also where hearing is done. So I guess sometimes I don't hear things. I hear there's a noise, but I don't know what is being said, like, you know. That's happened since my dementia. So that's like a another symptom, if you like, of my dementia, is this misunderstanding of things I'm hearing. I don't know whether it's my brain can't comprehend what it is, or whether it's just actually physically refusing to hear what's being said. Like, another added theory as to why these figures are so high is that because you're straining to hear something and understand it, your brain hears a muffled sound and suddenly goes in a massive overdrive quickly as a sort of autonomous fight or flight response to figure out what that noise was. And so it goes into this massive pseudo overdrive section. So it's being overworked. It's being it's like putting a turbo drive on your brain, like, you know. And if you've constantly got this, your brain is turbo driving itself on off it every sound you're hearing or trying to, and your brain's trying to decipher what it is. It's no wonder that at some point, you know, damage is going to happen, or some sort of abrasive thing's going to happen inside your brain, you know, like a processor overheating or something like that, you know. And of course, whilst your brain is working overtime to try and figure out what that flipping sound was, or word was, or something said to you, then it's not concentrating on other things, cognition and thinking and breathing and other things, like, you know. So there is your attention, let's say, could be waylaid because your brain is just 100% gone off and tried to look up what this stupid sound was, like, you know, without you realizing. So I understand the background behind why hearing loss of different degrees could interfere with the workings of the rest of the brain. And we know, or scientists know, that the auditory cortex, the bit that deals with sounds and things like that, has to be constantly updated. It's a natural part of being a human being, or a mammal, I suppose, in some respects, because we have predators, like, you know, and it's this auditor, we're constantly listening out for sound. That's why sometimes when you're fast asleep, you could be in a deep sleep, and your front gate goes, or your front door goes, or a window catch goes or something, suddenly you hear it. But how can you hear it if you're in a deep sleep? You shouldn't really be able to hear anything, like, in theory, but you do. And it's natural, the auditory cortex's alertness all the time working. So now if you put a filter over that, a big muffle over that, right, to your hearing, which is where the sound goes into your brain from, then this automatic sense thing is having to work that much harder and faster to try and figure out what this muffled sound might be. Like, is it a threat to me and my loved ones? Like, and I think that's the logic that sits behind that science, if you see what I mean. The added sticker that's put on that page, let's say, is that if you've got hearing problems or issues with your actual hearing, then it's likely that you're going to be maybe more socially isolated. You're not going to want to go places where you're talking to people and they're forever saying, you're forever saying to them, what, that sort of thing. Yeah, so I mean, my wife gets upset because she has to keep repeating questions and things like that. So if I'm reading or doing something, or just looking at something on my phone or something, and she says something, my brain's telling me she said something, but it doesn't interpret what she said, so I don't know the importance of it. The house is on fire or whatever. It just doesn't comprehend it. It doesn't think. Can't work it out. Like, and I think that's to do with the dementia that I've got up in the lobes here somewhere. Anyway, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so that is a definite thing. I can tell you that is a definite thing. My concentration is not able to keep. I can't concentrate on, or I can only concentrate on one thing at a time now. Whereas multitasking, bizarrely for a man, I used to be able to do quite a bit of, but can't do any more. I can only concentrate on one thing. That's why I get distracted easily, because if I get distracted by something, then all my concentration goes on to that new thing, like, and I totally forget what I was doing in the first place, like, again, that's part of my dementia, and it's connected with my hearing. What have I just heard, like, and I don't think I've ever had my hearing checked apart from when I was at school years and years ago. And they discovered that I had all this wax build up, so maybe my earlier years I didn't hear properly, because of all this wax and stuff. I know that carried into me when I was into my teens and excuse me, in early 20s and that, because I remember going to having my ears syringed out, like, with this hot water stuff that they put in, and all the gums and stuff come out in a little bowl thing, stainless steel bowl thing, disgusting. And so I clearly must have had some hearing issues as well when I was younger. So I'm going to give myself hearing loss. I have had hearing loss, so that's another point for me for this one. So what do we hear from this? We understand that there's basically two different distinct types of hearing loss. One is a physical hearing loss, whereby the actual ear is not working properly, or is blocked up, or is filtered in somehow. There's damage to it, or there's something blocking it all up, like earwax or an insect or something. I think you'd hear it anyway. And the second thing is where your ear's working perfectly okay, but your brain, as in someone with dementia, is incapable of understanding or interpreting, interrogating. I think you know what I mean. I'll put it up in the again. Intervening what that actual thing is that your ear has heard, like, so it's the dementia that's making you go hard of hearing, or giving you the hearing loss, like, maybe.